A young girl in a school uniform stands on a rooftop. Her eyes are tightly shut. Her body leans slightly forward. The young girl's heart is filled with pessimism, thinking of disappearing from this world. Perhaps this is his final kindness to the world. Most people in this world who die in accidents are spoken of in terms of luck and misfortune. But for Lien Mian, matters of life and death have never been about luck. In her eyes, there's only fate. Reflected in Lien Mian's eyes, the people coming and going on the street all have a mysterious number on them. That is their mortality rate. At this moment, not far in front of Lien Mian, a short-haired woman holds an umbrella in the rain, hurrying on her way. Amidst the noisy sound of the rain, the sound of her apologizing after bumping into a passerby can be heard. Lien Mian watches this person with a somewhat numb expression. Just as she was about to touch her, she subconsciously tightened her grip on the umbrella handle, creating a gap between herself and the woman. Seeing that the woman didn't touch her and successfully crossed the road, Lien Mian breathed a sigh of relief. However, her relief didn't last long. A man unexpectedly bumped into her, causing her to stumble. Not only did this person not apologize, but he also cursed at Lien Mian viciously. A large, dangerous mortality rate on his body flickered. After coming into contact with Lien Mian, it suddenly surged to 81. Lien Mian's eyes widened in shock. The strange characters in her pupils emitted a blood-red light. The next moment, the piercing sound of brakes screeched in her ears. The man from just now was almost hit by a large truck. Amidst the surrounding voices of accusation and alarm, Lien Mian suddenly quickened her pace, her eyes filled with self-blame. It was all her fault for touching him, causing his mortality rate to increase. Lien Mian was tormented by the various tragedies she had caused since she was young. Tears fell from her eyes as she fell straight down from the tall building. However, this was actually her 99th suicide attempt. Each time after attempting suicide, she would return to the same spot, unharmed. She sorrowfully recorded it in her notebook when a voice called from behind. A male voice was heard. A man, who had appeared out of nowhere, was floating in mid-air, asking if she was committing suicide. Immediately after, the man exuded a powerful aura. He advanced towards Lien Mian step by step. Lien Mian looked at the person before her and subconsciously retreated. The tragedy that had almost occurred on the road not long ago resurfaced in her mind. The man took a long stride, reaching her in a few steps. He grabbed Lien Mian's wrist, which she was using to shield herself. Unexpectedly, after a few seconds on the man's body, the number that terrified her never appeared. She looked at the mysterious man before her in astonishment. The man raised an eyebrow slightly, his tone filled with untamable arrogance, and told Lien Mian that he was a reaper. The man who called himself a reaper raised one hand. A pitch-black sword, wreathed in red light, appeared out of thin air above his palm. Before Lien Mian could react, it instantly pierced through her abdomen. As reapers, they can hear the sounds humans make on the verge of death, and from that, they learn the mortality rate. They each have their own unique sword, used to complete the ritual of taking human souls. But this special sword, containing immense power, after piercing Lien Mian's body, not only failed to kill her, but instead vanished in an instant after a pulling sensation. Lien Mian squinted and coughed. Both of them looked down at her abdomen. This was a result the man had never anticipated. He was extremely shocked, but it didn't show on his face. Lien Mian had thought she was finally going to die, but when she looked down, there wasn't even a trace of blood on her abdomen. Confused, she reached her hand towards her body. The man's brows furrowed slightly, his mind racing with thoughts. An incredible idea appeared in his mind. Could it be that his sword was devoured by this human? He looked at the fragile human before him with great interest. At that moment, a teacher's scolding voice was heard on the rooftop, asking Lien Mian what she was doing there alone. Catching the words alone, Lien Mian looked at the man with confusion and suspicion. The man proudly stated that only Lien Mian could see him. Unexpectedly, the next second, the teacher's roar was heard again. The man's entire expression fell. A look of confusion and astonishment appeared on his face as he wondered why even this ordinary woman could see him. He looked down at his palm. A red energy emerged, recalling the strange way the sword had vanished. He couldn't help but suspect it was because the sword had been devoured. The teacher who had suddenly barged in was still questioning the man, Zoe. He impatiently raised his hand, wanting to deal with this meddlesome human with magic first, before Lien Mian could stop him. Just as he was about to channel his spiritual power, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if his heart was about to split open. He clutched the painful spot tightly with his hand. It seemed to have started hurting faintly right after the sword was devoured. His spiritual power was out of control, flowing from his left hand. Lien Mian noticed something was wrong with him and worriedly asked Zoe. He told her he had to leave for a moment. He gently touched the back of her neck from an intimate angle. He would be back to retrieve his sword. Then, he vanished into thin air in broad daylight. Not far away, the teacher's patience had worn thin. A stern voice brought Lien Mian's attention back. The familiar number appeared on the chest of the person in front of her. The teacher acted as if Zhou Ye's existence had been completely erased. In Lien Mian's heart, there was a faint sense of anticipation for the Reaper's return. And at this very moment, the Reaper she was waiting for was in the Reaper realm, seeking an audience with the Emperor, requesting to stay in the human world for half a year. The Emperor looked at the request with some curiosity. What matter could stump his son? Zoe calmly stated it could be resolved in a few days. As Lien Mian walked to the classroom door, she heard the malicious voices of her classmates. When the boys saw Lien Mian arrive, they all got up from her seat. She walked to her spot and, as expected, saw dirty shoe prints all over her desk and chair. Lien Mian was used to it. She just took out some paper and silently wiped the desk and chair. At the same time, the teacher brought in a transfer student. Everyone in the class started whispering when they saw the handsome appearance of a newcomer. Lien Mian had no interest in this person at first, but as she was busy wiping her desk, she heard that familiar male voice from above. This new transfer student was actually the Reaper, dressed in a school uniform. Even though there were other empty seats, Zoe drove away the student next to Lien Mian and forced his way into the seat beside her. Although the boy found it strange, he had long wanted to get away from the Jinx girl. Lien Mian stared at Zhou Ye's side profile, observing him quietly for a moment. She never expected this guy to just drop in and become her classmate. Zoe noticed her gaze, turned his head, and with a slight smile, greeted her casually. Lien Mian had thought the Reaper was far from her life. Until the end of the first class, Lien Mian was still a little nervous about how to address Zhou Ye. Compared to her deserted desk, Zhou Ye's surroundings were crowded with people, all drawn by his looks and his special attention to Lien Mian. Lien Mian could tolerate it, but he was merciless. He bluntly said that girl was too noisy and that his business had nothing to do with her. As soon as he finished speaking, the faces of the surrounding girls instantly turned ugly. Zoe ignored their stiff expressions and disregarded them all. As he walked towards the door, he turned his head and called for Lien Mian to go with him. As a result, the surrounding chatter grew even more intense, all of it cold mockery directed at Lien Mian. Thinking that Zoe was also being criticized because of her, Lien Mian suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. She quickly stood up, wanting Zoe to leave first. The rustling sound of discussion in the room had long since exhausted the man's patience. He opened his eyes in annoyance. The noisy sounds instantly fell silent. Time froze at this moment. Zoe strode towards Lien Mian and dragged her away as she stood there, stunned. He had long grown tired of staying in such a boring place. Regardless of the man's reasons, this was the first time when Lien Mian was surrounded by the malice of others, that someone had taken the initiative to lead her away. Lien Mian suddenly understood what the man meant when he said he was different from humans. He was a Reaper with special powers. The Reaper told her not to worry about the gazes of others. As the two of them walked out, everyone along the way was frozen in place. Lien Mian opened her mouth to ask Zhou Ye where he was taking her. The next second, she quickly passed a male student. As they brushed past each other, she actually saw a 0 on the boy's body, representing safety. Compared to the numbers on others, this person was even more conspicuous. How could someone's mortality rate be 0? Even after walking a few steps away, Lien Mian couldn't calm the shock and doubt in her heart. Her eyes widened slightly. Unable to believe the number she saw, she abruptly turned around, wanting to confirm the owner of the number again. But Zoe happened to turn his head and interrupt her, asking for Lien Mian's home address, pulling her thoughts back to the present. After walking in silence for a while, Lien Mian finally had a chance to face Zoe directly. The man held Lien Mian's hand tightly. Answering her earlier question, he said they were going home now. Not long after leaving the hallway, Yuli, who should have been oblivious, for some reason, kept watching the direction Lien Mian and the others left. It wasn't until a classmate next to him called his name that he finally retracted his fixed gaze. After a moment of silence, he casually said it was nothing. Then he tightened his grip on the small notebook in his hand. On it was the number of suicide attempts Lien Mian had recorded. After Zhou Yi told Lien Mian he was going to her house, she could only resign herself to leading the way. Walking on a tree-lined path, she finally asked what was on her mind. If Zoe wanted to kill her, couldn't he just do it here? She didn't understand Zoe Ye's purpose in becoming a transfer student and following her home. Her tone was light, completely unconcerned about her impending death. Zoe paused for a moment. His red eyes lit up with a red glow. After these words were spoken, Lien Mian fell silent again, her expression unreadable. But the veins on Zoe Ye's hand gradually became prominent, as if he was enduring something. But in the end, when Lien Mian didn't hear an answer for a long time and turned back in confusion, he instantly rushed in front of her. His 5 fingers easily wrapped around Lien Mian's slender, fragile neck. The distance between them suddenly shortened. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. The grip on his hand gradually tightened. After using his power again, Zoye's heart seemed to throb with pain once more. But he completely disregarded his own body. While Lien Mian struggled to breathe and coughed, he explained to her that once pierced by a Reaper's sword, as long as that person stays by the Reaper's side, they will constantly be in a dangerous situation. Hearing Lien Mian's increasingly painful choking, Zoe didn't just strangle her like that. Instead, he loosened his tight grip, holding her loosely. Is Lien Mian in such a hurry to leave this world? As soon as his palm left her neck, air rushed into Lien Mian's body. She began to choke and cough uncontrollably. Zoe slowly rotated his wrist and reached out to lift Lien Mian's chin. His expression was subtle as he said something that would sound strange to any ordinary person. If you want to die, you have to be obedient. The serious atmosphere of their discussion about life and death was interrupted by a sudden female voice. The person recognized Zoe Yi and shouted loudly. Seeing this, Zoe once again pulled up Lien Mian, who had just recovered, and turned to leave. In an alley, Yuli was stroking a kitten's forehead and feeding it. The girl he was talking about was, without a doubt, Lien Mian. She secretly looked forward to meeting Lien Mian. Over there, Zoe had been complaining about the smallness of the room ever since he entered Lien Mian's house, until he couldn't stand it anymore and prepared to leave. Lien Mian hurriedly called out to him. In her panic, she accidentally knocked over a vase on the table. She subconsciously started picking up the shards with her bare hands. Just as she muttered a complaint about the unreasonable Zoe Yi, she suddenly realized that the cut on her hand from the vase shards was not healing quickly as usual. Blood was now dripping onto the floor. Could it be that she could finally, as Zoe had said, find release? The next day, as Lien Mian was leaving school, a heavy rain began to fall. She stared at the still unhealed wound on her hand. The image of Zoe Yi leaving that day appeared before her eyes again. Then, from her pocket, she took out the note she found near the kitten. From the person's message, it was clear they were both feeding the same stray cat. It seemed the kitten had a new source of food. He probably wouldn't need to feed it anymore. While she was thinking about the note, a male classmate's energetic voice called out to Yuli from behind her. Immediately after, another boy's worried and urgent voice told him to be careful. A basketball was flying straight towards Lien Mian's face. Before she could react, she stood frozen, staring blankly. Suddenly, a hand holding an umbrella reached out from behind her. In shock, Lien Mian's eyes flew wide open. An umbrella suddenly opened in front of her, precisely blocking the incoming basketball. The person's face still showed a trace of panic. What shocked Lien Mian was not just the timing of this person's appearance, but also the number on his chest. That day in the hallway, it really wasn't her imagination. The number on Yuli's body was that green 0. Lian Mian said nothing, not responding at all to the other's enthusiastic words. She was still holding the note. Yuli, unintentionally getting close, blushed and wanted to tell her that he was the one who fed the same cat as her. But before he could finish, Lian Mian flashed to the trash can, threw the note away, and quickly moved away from the boy. So Yuli didn't continue speaking. He just persistently approached Lian Mian again. He offered his umbrella to her. Even when Lian Mian refused, he didn't give up and forcibly pushed the umbrella into her hands. During the girl's resistance, their bodies accidentally touched. Lian Mian immediately recoiled as if electrocuted, abruptly pulling away from him. She looked up to observe the number on Yuli's body. It was still that reassuring 0. Yuli's sunny expression didn't change because of her intense reaction. This couldn't help but move Lian Mian's heart. But in order not to involve Yuli, she closed her eyes, hardened her heart, and threw the umbrella down. And very coldly and heartlessly, she uttered 3 words, "Don't touch me." Even someone as optimistic as Yuli was surprised. Was she completely different from the person he had imagined? A week later, Lian Mian was walking normally on the stairs when she was hit on the head by an iron plate that wasn't carried properly from above. Such unlucky days had continued for a week. Although her pain and wounds did not disappear, her suicide plans still failed. Just as she was wondering if her inability to heal was caused by the Reaper, Zoe was behind her, having witnessed everything that had just happened. Lian Mian kindly helped a female classmate move some items. But the moment she entered the storage room, they instantly shut the door tightly. Their malicious act was unconcealed. By the time Lian Mian realized it was a prank, it was too late. After the two locked the door, they continued to mock Lian Mian from outside. Lian Mian's face turned red, her breathing heavy, and waves of dizziness washed over her. She also believed that for everyone to stay away from her was to stay away from bad luck. Zoe witnessed the bullying Lian Mian had endured these past few days, even now. He was right outside the door. He didn't expect Lian Mian not to cry out in pain even once. The 2 female students who had been teasing Lian Mian were still talking about teaching Lian Mian a lesson as they walked away. Their words happened to reach the ears of Yuli, who was playing with a ball. He rushed to the storage room and knocked hard on the door. Inside, Lian Mian was dizzy and couldn't answer. Zoe, outside the door, even blocked his way, saying there was no one inside. Yuli knew from his expression that it was a lie and completely ignored Zoe as obstruction. He used all his strength to kick open the locked door. Lian Mian's condition inside was immediately revealed. The spot on the girl's head where she was hit by the iron plate was bleeding profusely. She had completely fainted in this dark storage room. Hearing Yuli's voice, Lian Mian barely managed to open her blood-smeared eyes. But when she saw the number representing the mortality rate on him, she squeezed her eyes shut again. She couldn't let anyone else suffer because of her. She subconsciously thought of the Reaper, who was unaffected by the numbers, and repeatedly whispered Zoye's name. Hearing this, Zoye's expression became dark and unreadable. Did he finally feel some pity for Lian Mian's miserable state? He stopped Yuli from trying to pick up Lian Mian and took the first step towards the fainted girl. He gently scooped her up from the ground in a princess carry and offered to take her away himself. The Reaper had heard humans begging for mercy more than anything else. Humans begged him for their lives. They knelt before him, crying, saying they would live a good life. Or he would encounter some insolent humans who tried to escape. Some even believed that Reapers shouldn't exist. Only those who go to hell would become the universally reviled Reapers. But no matter who it was, no matter what they did, they would die upon seeing a Reaper. Lian Mian was probably the special one. After seeing the Reaper, she showed no confusion, no anger, and certainly no pleading. Instead, she murmured a plea for him to kill her. Moonlight filled the room. Lian Mian slowly woke up. She sat up in bed. After seeing the man sleeping on the sofa in the corner, she got out of bed on tiptoe. Full of questions, she looked at the man for a moment, then looked around at her surroundings. She suddenly remembered that when she was injured, she had called the Reaper's name. She remembered the Reaper holding her. She remembered begging the Reaper not to send her to the infirmary. And what was the Reaper's reply? Oh, he said he hadn't planned on sending her there anyway. Her memory ended there. Lian Mian suddenly felt dizzy before she lost her balance and fell. Lian Mian wondered, is this hell? The Reaper was perhaps woken by her movement. He told her she had a fever now, The place they were in was his home. He then coldly asked Lien Mian how long she was going to lie there. Lien Mian had no strength to answer or get up. Her head was spinning. She just lay there on the Reaper's lap. And the Reaper, though not having a fever, was about to get a headache himself. He had encountered a very tricky problem. His sword was still inside Lien Mian. He had no way to get out. Without the sword, he couldn't kill Lien Mian either. "Hey, wake up. If you want to lie down, go back to the bed," the Reaper said to Lien Mian helplessly. But at this moment, Lien Mian was completely delirious. She thought she was already lying in bed. Seeing Lien Mian like this, the Reaper thought something was wrong. Is this girl delirious from the fever? Why is she so different from her usual self? The Reaper had no choice but to place his palm on Lien Mian's forehead. After a short while, Lien Mian slowly regained consciousness. Seeing that she was lying on the Reaper's lap, she was startled. Thinking of her previous physical contact with the Reaper, she scrambled backward as if fleeing. At this moment, seeing Lien Mian's state, the Reaper thought to himself, "Why is Lien Mian's face even redder?" Lien Mian, with her increasingly red face, slowly got up. Her head was still very dizzy and heavy. Losing her balance, Lien Mian swayed and sat on the floor. Then she fainted again. The Reaper had intended to leave the bedroom directly, but thinking of Lien Mian still lying on the floor, he, despite his words, said, "What a nuisance," while putting her back on the bed. In her dream, Lien Mian dreamt that she was hugging a man. Some things are like a poison, tempting him who is in hell. Once you've been tainted, it's hard to quit. She looked up at the man she was hugging. As soon as he started speaking to Lien Mian, the number in front of him started from 10 and flew up. It rose at the speed of light up to 100. As the number changed, he said, "This is the mission you bear." Slowly, the figure faded. His voice still echoed in the dark dream. This was Lien Mian's inescapable fate. The dream ended. Lien Mian sat up with a start. In stark contrast to her fear was the Reaper. At this moment, he was sitting at the dining table, elegantly eating a steak. Lien Mian hid behind the wall, comforting herself that everything just now was a dream. Because the Reaper doesn't have a number. Suddenly, the sharp sound of a fork and knife falling to the ground startled Lien Mian. She didn't dare to breathe, just stood there in fear. But the Reaper had already seen through her disguise. He first muttered to himself, "Is this human food?" Then he raised his eyes, looked at the wall behind Lien Mian, and asked what she was trying to do, sneaking around. Seeing that she had been discovered by the Reaper, Lien Mian simply walked to the dining table. The Reaper looked at her and didn't say much, just complained that human food was hard to swallow. Lien Mian looked at the Reaper, wondering if he could help her escape this fate. She didn't say much, just turned to leave. But the next second, the Reaper instantly appeared in front of her, cornering her at the dining table. Seeing the man so close to her, Lien Mian immediately blushed from her cheeks to her ears. She quickly turned away and then slowly moved to the side. The Reaper didn't press her further, just picked up the steak and asked if Lien Mian needed to eat. But Lien Mian had no appetite at the moment. As soon as she said no, the Reaper put down the steak in his hand. Then the fork flew straight past Lien Mian's side. The force was so great that it damaged the wall and also left a faint scratch on Lien Mian's face. But Lien Mian, whether out of fear or simply unmoved, just stood there without any reaction. The devil-like man behind her seemed unaware of how terrible his actions were. He fiddled with the small knife used for cutting steak, teasing her for not being afraid of death, yet afraid of touching others. But all he got in response was Lien Mian's silence. He seemed to have lost his patience, his tone gradually becoming impatient. He ordered Lien Mian to turn around. Meanwhile, the school bell rang. The hallway was noisy. As Yuli passed the storage room, he remembered Lien Mian's miserable state at that time. He couldn't help but worry about Lien Mian. Being injured like that, would something happen to her? Because he was too worried. Even when his friend came to ask him to play ball, he directly refused. He made an excuse, saying he had something to do later. But his friend didn't buy it. He said he had noticed something was off with Yuli for a while and asked if Yuli was secretly going on a date. But Yuli just smiled awkwardly. He took out a sausage from his pocket and said he was just going to feed the cat. After some explanation, his friend finally let Yuli go. Soon, Yuli arrived at the place where the cat lived, but he couldn't find the cat anywhere. After a long while, suddenly he heard a faint meow. Following the sound, he slowly walked closer. The cat's mouth was actually sealed with tape. Seeing this, Yuli couldn't believe it. He hurried forward and removed the tape. He squatted down in distress, stroking the kitten while thinking to himself, who would do such a boring thing? After tearing open the sausage wrapper, the kitten ate happily. Yuli looked at the kitten's wagging tail. There was a note attached to it. He gently took it off and looked. On it were written the 5 large characters exclusively for the withdrawn girl. Withdrawn girl. Yuli thought of Lien Mian. He crumpled the note tightly in his hand. What was going on? Who did this? At night, under the dim yellow streetlights, a seemingly innocent girl in a school uniform with a ponytail was now stealthily approaching the kitten. Seeing that the seal on the kitten's mouth had been removed, she was sure Lien Mian must have been here. The thought of Lien Mian's pitiful state excited her. She approached the kitten while pulling at the tape in her hand. But before she could carry out her plan, a familiar voice suddenly interrupted her. The girl, caught doing something bad, was startled, and the tape in her hand fell to the ground. She turned around and found that it was Yuli. At this moment, Yuli was looking at her angrily, questioning if she was the one who put the tape on the kitten. But the girl wasn't flustered at all. She even said with an air of righteousness that she just wanted to teach Lien Mian, that withdrawn girl, a lesson. At this moment, Lien Mian and the withdrawn girl she mentioned completely overlapped in Yuli's mind. So that girl's name is Lien Mian. Before Yuli could get angry at the girl, unexpectedly, the girl preemptively started slandering her. She belittled Lien Mian, saying she was just putting on a show by feeding the cat, and that Lien Mian was a notorious jinx at school. Anyone who came into contact with her would have bad luck, and so on. Yuli was very displeased to hear this. He interrupted her. So what? So, is that a reason to abuse a small animal? Hearing Yuli's words, which were not on her side at all, and unlike others who would gossip about Lien Mian with her, the girl stood there stunned. Yuli found her appearance utterly disgusting. He turned around and said in a cold tone as he walked away, "Put away your hypocritical justice. I think the kitten is the one who had bad luck meeting you. If I find you abusing the kitten again, I won't let you off as easily as today." With that, Yuli left without looking back. But even after being told this, the girl still didn't come to her senses. She remained standing there, full of resentment. The next morning, Lien Mian and the Reaper were walking to the classroom together. The people around them saw Lien Mian walking with a handsome guy who had been popular on the forum recently and immediately started whispering. Hearing the long-winded and annoying voices of humans, the Reaper was very displeased. But Lien Mian seemed to have gotten used to it and paid no attention. Suddenly, a young voice came from behind. Lien Mian turned her head to look. It was the boy from last time, Yuli. The boy slowly approached and extended his hand to Lien Mian. He sincerely hoped that she could be his friend. But for some reason, Lien Mian walked right past Yuli as if nothing had just happened. The onlookers were all very confused, even the Reaper. Now the surrounding discussion grew even louder. But because of Lien Mian's silent response, people felt it was pointless and dispersed while complaining. In the classroom, Lien Mian twirled a pen in her hand while thinking about Yuli's stunned and disappointed expression earlier. She couldn't help but feel sorry in her heart. Could this also be considered harm caused by her? Her thoughts drifted further and further away until she could no longer control the pen in her hand. Fortunately, the Reaper sitting next to her caught it directly, before she could recover from the shock that the Reaper could even catch a pen like that. The next moment, the pen was snapped in two by the Reaper and thrown back on her desk. She didn't know why the Reaper was in a bad mood. He left with his hands in his pockets, still complaining about the trouble. During lunchtime, 2 girls were gathered together, whispering. They were talking about Lien Mian, their words full of mockery and slander. The ponytail girl hiding nearby heard these words and showed a satisfied, cunning smile. Here, the fast food restaurant was full of customers. Lien Mian held a tray in her hand. She anxiously looked at the people in front of her, each with a flashing number. By chance, Lien Mian found an empty seat in a corner. She slowly walked forward. But the 2 girls sitting next to the empty seat were not welcoming. They mocked her with a volume loud enough for Lien Mian to hear. Hearing this, Lien Mian had to turn around and prepare to leave. But she hadn't gone far when the 2 girls behind her, who had been calling her a jinx, were interrupted. She heard them asking who the newcomer was, and then they screamed for help. Hearing such a strange commotion, Lien Mian turned around. She saw a man holding a knife, his arm around the short-haired girl who had just been mocking her. From his words, it was clear that the short-haired girl's father owed this man a lot of money. Seeing the crazed man and the helpless girl, everyone eating in the fast food restaurant was terrified. They scattered and fled. In a short while, there were only a few people left in the restaurant. The number in front of the short-haired girl was now rapidly increasing from low to high. Lien Mian didn't know why death always lingered around her. But at this moment, she suddenly wanted to do something. Putting down her tray, she looked firmly at the man and asked if she could be exchanged for the short-haired girl. She felt that who the hostage was no longer mattered to the man. While Lien Mian was negotiating with the man, Yuli happened to notice the strange situation in the fast food restaurant. He walked to the door and saw that it was Lien Mian communicating with the assailant. Seeing this, he pushed his way into the restaurant against the flow of people. By the time he successfully reached the center of the incident, Lien Mian had just completed the exchange with the short-haired girl. Yuli saw the man holding a knife to Lien Mian's neck, shouting loudly for the girl's father to pay back the money. He also said that if anyone dared to call the police, he would take them all down with him. Seeing this, Yuli didn't dare to make any drastic moves. He just slowly approached the man. He tried to persuade the man to let Lien Mian go first, but the man didn't fall for Yuli's trick. He just kept waving the knife, refusing to let anyone get close. Suddenly, a man wearing a hat and casual clothes appeared behind Yuli. He told the other not to act rashly in a cold tone. The knife-wielding assailant, upon hearing this, thought the man in the hat was speaking for him. He echoed to Yuli, "Did you hear that? Don't act rashly." He just wanted to get back what was rightfully his. Hearing this, Yuli thought the man in the hat standing behind him was the assailant's accomplice. He turned around and raised his fist at the man in the hat, but unexpectedly, that man was so skilled. He directly grabbed Yuli's arm and quietly told Yuli that he was a police officer. His colleagues would be here soon. He told him not to be impulsive now, but unexpectedly, the man heard him. He excitedly raised his knife and swung it at Yuli. They dared to call the police. This must be Yuli's doing. Lien Mian stared blankly at the assailant, who turned the knife that was on her towards someone else. She thought, is it because of me again? Why is it always the people around me who die in the end, and not me? She couldn't and wouldn't accept such a fate. Thinking of this, she suddenly walked forward and grabbed the assailant's knife-wielding arm. She said firmly, "Come at me." The assailant was undoubtedly angered by Lien Mian's action. Just as he turned around and was about to stab Lien Mian, the police appeared. But strangely, before anyone did anything to him, he fainted on his own. Afterward, the police quickly called an ambulance and took Lien Mian and the others to give their statements. Finally, after giving their statements, as soon as Lien Mian walked out the door, she saw the Reaper waiting outside. He said he was taking Lien Mian somewhere. Hearing this, Lien Mian wanted to refuse, but helplessly, the Reaper very domineeringly took her arm. As usual, Lien Mian tried to hide but couldn't. Unexpectedly, when she opened her eyes, she found herself in another beautiful place. It seemed to be a mountaintop. The Reaper said this was the place for the ceremony. He was going to retrieve his sword. Looking down, Lien Mian found a formation under her feet. Looking up again, she was surprised to see the Reaper starting to take off his clothes. She didn't understand, but the Reaper told her his clothes would get in the way, and he asked Lien Mian to take off her clothes as well. Lien Mian couldn't defy the Reaper, but she couldn't suppress her shyness. Her movements were extremely slow. Seeing her like this, the Reaper anxiously offered to help. "You don't have to take everything off. Besides, he wouldn't look closely." Lien Mian immediately said she could do it herself and asked the Reaper to turn around. Then, blushing, she took off her jacket. After a while, the Reaper asked impatiently about her progress. Lien Mian replied faintly that she was ready. Hearing her reply, the Reaper turned around and activated the formation. A red light shone from Lien Mian's chest. She slowly rose into the formation under the Reaper's control. Before long, the sword slowly emerged from Lien Mian's chest. Now is the time. The Reaper embraced Lien Mian, who was floating in the formation. But as soon as he touched the sword, it unexpectedly retracted back into Lien Mian's body. At this moment, the Reaper was a little confused, not knowing if the sword had rejected him, or if Lien Mian had rejected him. Meanwhile, the ponytail girl found a fierce-looking thug. She was secretly pleased, thinking that Lien Mian wouldn't be able to escape this time. Outside the classroom, several students were gathered together. One of the girls was sharing the latest news she knew with the others. That is, the withdrawn girl Lien Mian had saved someone a few days ago. Hearing this information, the others were very shocked, because just before, the girl with the ponytail had been gossiping about Lien Mian with them. She had sworn that Lien Mian was too two-timing and also liked to steal her best friend's boyfriend. But now, hearing that Lien Mian was such a kind person, they all looked at the ponytail girl in disbelief. Was she spreading rumors? Of course, it was a rumor. Seeing that their opinion of Lien Mian was gradually changing, the girl's heart burned with anger. She promised herself that she would teach Lien Mian a lesson tonight. On the other side, the dim sunlight shone on Lien Mian, making her beautiful pupils even more captivating. Suddenly, a boyish voice rang out. Lien Mian turned her head to look behind her. It was Yuli. At this moment, he was smiling and greeting Lien Mian. Although Lien Mian gave him no reaction at all, he was not discouraged. He first said that their class teacher had praised Lien Mian today. Then he said he wanted to invite her to feed the cat together. Hearing this, Lien Mian finally opened her mouth to reply, but was interrupted by several men who came towards them. They all looked fierce. They menacingly told Lien Mian and the other to stop. Although Yuli didn't know who they were, he was not afraid. He calmly asked them their purpose. But the men had no intention of answering. They just showed a dangerous smile and said that he didn't need to know. They only wanted Lien Mian, who was behind Yuli. At this point, Yuli noticed the weapons in their hands. Seeing this situation, Yuli had a bad feeling. Could these people be seeking revenge for the last incident? Thinking of this, Yuli quickly pulled Lien Mian behind him. He frowned and looked seriously at the men. It seemed that the fierce men in front of him were here to bully Lien Mian. The man in black at the head impatiently held a knife, approaching while telling Yuli to get lost if he didn't want trouble. He and Lien Mian had something to talk about. Here, the men were still having a headache, not knowing what to do with Yuli. But Yuli was already planning in his mind how to deal with him. He thought to himself that he just needed to snatch the knife. But the man opposite him reacted very quickly. Just as Yuli reached out to grab the knife, the man dodged to the side. Seeing that Yuli was so uncooperative, the men also got angry. Fists rained down on Yuli like a storm. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, let alone so many people on the other side. Soon, Yuli was beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back. He was thrown against the wall, covered in wounds. But the people opposite him had no intention of letting him go. A man with a gold tooth held a knife and approached him. Lien Mian, standing on the side, was extremely anxious. She shouted Yuli's name loudly. She thought that there had been too much danger around her recently. If this continued, she would sooner or later get Yuli killed. Lien Mian felt extremely guilty. She believed that this was all her fault, but Yuli didn't think so. He just felt that he had to protect Lien Mian. But although his purpose was pure, he had no idea what to do. At this moment, Lien Mian suddenly spoke to the man opposite her, asking if they were looking for her. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at Lien Mian. The gold-toothed man showed a disdainful expression. He approached Lien Mian while speaking to her in a flirtatious tone. "Don't be in a hurry, little girl. Wait until we're done with this boy." By now, he was standing in front of Lien Mian. He pushed Lien Mian back against the wall. He stared at Lien Mian like prey. He said in a greasy and terrifying voice that they would have fun with Lien Mian later. Hearing the gold-toothed man's obvious threat, Yuli couldn't help but stand up, walk towards him, and punch him hard in the face. The sudden pain made the gold-toothed man furious. He kicked Yuli hard, and Yuli, who was already seriously injured, suffered the full force of the gold-toothed man's kick. Blood spurted from his mouth, but even when the men saw him spitting blood, they still wouldn't let him go. Lien Mian, standing on the side, was extremely anxious. She thought of the cheerful and sunny Yuli, who was so good to her. She thought to herself that this absolutely could not continue. But there were too many people now. Acting rashly would be dangerous. She could only shout at the men to let Yuli go. But what no one noticed was that a man was now standing above them, watching everything happen. The gold-toothed man heard Lien Mian tell him to let the boy go. He showed a ferocious smile again. He said to Lien Mian, "Sure, as long as you can make me happy." He could consider letting this brat go. Seeing Lien Mian approach step by step after hearing his words, he was even more satisfied. That's right. This is what it means to be sensible. Lien Mian automatically ignored Yuli's pleas, walking forward while thinking that it should be over soon. Naturally, she didn't notice that. Yuli beside her could no longer hold on and slowly fainted. The terrifying man in front of her stared at her, laughing greasily as he commented on Lien Mian's appearance. The man above watched the people below surrounding Lien Mian, discussing how to humiliate her. He felt disgusted, thinking how repulsive these filthy humans were. Just as the gold-toothed man was about to make a move, he suddenly felt a gust of wind. They turned around to look. Behind them, a man in a suit had appeared out of nowhere. What they didn't know was that the man in front of them was the Reaper. They just thought the man in front of them was backup that Yuli had called, and they all raised their weapons, ready to fight. But the man in front of them remained unfazed. He said, "This is where it ends," and with a wave of his hand, he sent all the weapons in the men's hands flying. The Reaper's combat power was truly formidable. He didn't even get close to the gold-toothed man. He just stood at a distance and raised his hand. The gold-toothed man was lifted into the air as if his throat was being choked. He couldn't even speak a complete sentence, just rolled his eyes and begged for help. But the man was as merciless as they had been just now. He asked mockingly, "Why aren't you screaming anymore?" With that, he tilted his hand, and the gold-toothed man was thrown heavily to the ground, still foaming at the mouth. The other men, seeing their leader in such a miserable state, were all shocked, muttering if they had seen a ghost. Before they could even think of running, the man opposite them coldly said to the group, "If you don't want to live, come at me together." Of course, they wanted to live. The man in front of them didn't seem human. Compared to the gold-toothed man's life, their own lives were of course more important. Thinking of this, they dropped their weapons and fled. But how could the man give them a chance to escape? But how could the Reaper let them go so easily? With a whoosh, he flashed from behind them to in front of them, blocking their escape route. Then, with almost no effort, the man knocked them all to the ground. But after dealing with these people, he suddenly froze. He didn't understand why he had interfered, nor did he understand why he had been so angry just now. He ignored Lien Mian's calls to him and walked away. Looking at the empty road, Lien Mian was very confused. Was the Reaper saving her just now? Before she could snap out of her daze, Lien Mian suddenly thought of Yuli, who had fallen to the side. She quickly went to check on him. She saw the familiar number light up in front of Yuli again. She thought of the kindness Yuli had shown her. She clenched her fists tightly and knelt on the ground, sobbing. What should I do? And miraculously, Yuli, who was beside her, heard Lien Mian's crying and slowly opened his eyes, seeing Lien Mian's current state. He remembered the little girl in the red dress again. Without a moment's thought, Yuli called the police. Lien Mian comforted him, telling him not to cry. Lien Mian felt the embrace and remembered the increasing number in front of Yuli. She quickly pushed Yuli away. Pushed away, Yuli looked at her and apologized gently, asking if she must have been very scared. The next day, although the weather was fine, the students in front of her were chatting and playing ball. But Lien Mian was still sitting alone on a chair, quietly watching the liveliness of the campus that belonged to others. She looked up at the warm sunlight. It was really dazzling to her. Hope was a burden to her. Yuli's hope number was 0. This was good because Lien Mian didn't have the courage to see the number change because of her again. As she was thinking this, Yuli happened to appear beside her, greeting her with a smile. But Lien Mian didn't give him an extra glance. Instead, she got up from the chair and left. She hoped that his luck would not be shaken by her. She thought about this as she walked. The boy behind Yuli saw how cold Lien Mian was and couldn't help but say to Yuli, "Are you stupid? She's not even paying attention to you." But the ignored Yuli was not angry. He just silently lowered his hand. He knew it would be like this. On a high wall, the Reaper was now wearing a school uniform, overlooking the two of them. He remembered the last time he got angry. It was many years ago. He really couldn't understand why he was so unusual this time. After thinking about it, he couldn't come up with an answer. That day, anyone would have taught that group of people a lesson. But was he purely helping out of a sense of justice? Or was it for her? After school, outside Lien Mian's classroom, everyone was whispering as they looked at Yuli. Why was Yuli at their classroom door? The crowd gradually dispersed. Yuli stopped one of the people coming out of the classroom. He wanted to know where Lien Mian was. But the other person told him that Lien Mian had gone home after school. Hearing this, Yuli stood there dejected. But even so, he still held out hope. Could Lien Mian have gone to the place where they feed the cat? The sun was setting. The dim yellow sunlight shone on the boy and the cute kitten. The kitten was very happy to see the boy and the food he brought. But the boy squatting there was heavy-hearted. It seemed Lien Mian wasn't here either. He felt that ever since that hug last time, Lien Mian had been avoiding him. Suddenly, Yuli seemed to have figured something out. He let out a breath. He comforted himself. It's okay. It will be fine one day. With a thud, as Yuli stood up, he saw a notebook on the ground. It seemed to be Lien Mian's. Seeing this, Yuli picked up the notebook and examined it carefully. But apart from the date and the word failure, after it, there was nothing else. Yuli couldn't help but say to Lien Mian in his heart, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't care what others said about her. because in his memory, Lien Mian was always that kind and bright girl. Thinking of this, he seemed to have suddenly regained his strength. He put the notebook in his pocket and put on the smile he always wore. As he ran, he thought about what his classmates had said about him being a fool. It doesn't matter if I'm a fool. Giving up on Lien Mian like this would be the real foolish thing to do. On a quiet, deserted path, Lien Mian walked alone, her back looking very lonely. Yuli had been looking for her for a long time. Now that he had finally found her, he hesitated, not knowing if he should call out to her. Suddenly, a man with red pupils he had never seen before, as if he knew what he was thinking, suddenly stood in front of him without a sound. He said he didn't think Yuli should call Lien Mian. Didn't he think there was enough trouble already? Stay away from Yuli. Hearing this, Yuli was a little confused. He didn't think his injuries were because of Lien Mian. On the contrary, if he were stronger, he could have protected her. One day during a break, Yuli was squatting in a corner, deep in thought. He had been feeling a bit unlucky these past few days. First, he bumped into a utility pole in the morning. Then, he got a mouthful of eggshells for breakfast. Then, he was hit by chalk from the teacher in class. Finally, his gym clothes suddenly disappeared. On the other side, several girls were working overtime to clean up. The teacher was coming soon, but they hadn't finished their task yet. Unlike their noise, Lien Mian was squatting on the side, silently wiping the wall. The Reaper always disappears during general cleaning, she thought to herself, but she didn't notice at all that behind her, a girl was standing on a desk, holding a bucket of water, ready to pour it on her. Just then, Yuli happened to pass by. Before he could stop her, the girl poured all the water on Lien Mian. But even though her action was so deliberate, she was still saying sorry. Seeing this, Yuli quickly rushed forward to show his concern for Lien Mian. But unexpectedly, as soon as Lien Mian saw him, she immediately dodged backward. She even lost her balance and fell to the ground. She was looking at the water stains on her body with a headache. Suddenly, Yuli's school jacket was draped over her. She looked up at Yuli's back. Yuli said he hoped she wouldn't avoid him. He just wanted to show his concern for Lien Mian. After saying that, Yuli was about to leave. But feeling Lien Mian stand up behind him, he seemed to suddenly realize that his tone was not right. He turned his head and explained to Lien Mian in his usual tone. He didn't mean anything else. He just felt that she didn't want to be too close to him, but he just wanted to talk to Lien Mian. She could return the clothes to him later. After saying that, Yuli turned around and was finally about to leave. But before he could take a few steps, he heard Lien Mian's voice of thanks from behind. Hearing this thank you, he immediately became like a happy child. He turned around and said shyly, "It's nothing." But after thanking him, Lien Mian fled in a panic, leaving Yuli standing there in a daze. The next day, Lien Mian stood at the door of Yuli's classroom with a heavy heart. She planned to wait and put the clothes directly on Yuli's desk. It would be best if they didn't meet. But suddenly, a chillingly cold voice sounded, asking if the clothes Lien Mian was holding were Yuli's. Lien Mian was startled by this voice. But before she could react, the Reaper snatched the clothes from Lien Mian's hand. As he walked, he said nonchalantly that he would give the clothes to Yuli. On the playground, a perfect shot missed Yuli. He felt someone behind him. He turned around and saw that it was the man from last time, and hanging on his arm was his school uniform. Before he could ask a complete question, the man threw the school uniform to him. As he threw it, he said, "It seems Yuli enjoys a life of bad luck." He had already said that staying away from Lien Mian would avoid so much trouble. A young man's love is always sincere and passionate. The Reaper didn't expect Yuli not to say anything else, but to say directly that he didn't want to stay away from Lien Mian. Hearing this, the Reaper was very confused. He didn't know the reason for this, but Yuli didn't intend to waste too much time talking to this person. He just said that rather than wanting to be friends with Lien Mian, he actually liked Lien Mian as a person. The Reaper wanted to persuade Yuli again to stay away from the jinx Lien Mian. Unexpectedly, he heard this kid's confession to Lien Mian, and this kid in front of him even disrespectfully questioned why he always had a superior attitude, and why did he inexplicably call him little brother? But as a Reaper, he was already 5,200 years old. What's wrong with calling him little brother? He was just giving a kind warning. For Yuli to say such a thing, it was truly impossible to communicate. Seeing that the other was so stubborn, the Reaper turned and walked away. Unexpectedly, the other wouldn't let him go. He even grabbed his arm and continued to ask about the Reaper's relationship with Lien Mian. Seeing that Yu Li was so disobedient and so rude, the Reaper no longer wanted to waste any more words with him. He shook off the other's hand that was grabbing him without mercy. He said that his relationship with Lien Mian was none of Yu Li's business. He should worry about himself. With that, he turned and walked away. But Yu Li, opposite him, still wouldn't give up. He raised his voice to ask if Lien Mian had asked him to bring his clothes over, or if he had decided to do it himself. But before he could finish his sentence, a basketball suddenly flew towards him, hitting him right on the head. The students who witnessed this rushed over to ask if he was injured. Just before passing out, he vaguely heard the death god tell him, "Don't go around grabbing people. After all, my constitution is different from yours." Before Yu Li could figure out what that meant, he passed out. In the infirmary, Lien Mian was anxiously asking the school doctor about Yu Li's condition. When the school doctor told him that Yu Li's previous head injury hadn't healed, and now he was hurt again, and that he would likely be in a lot of discomfort for some time, he felt extremely guilty. He walked to the bedside and looked at the sleeping Yu Li. Unsure if he was speaking to himself or to the other boy, he whispered reproachfully, "Why do you keep doing this?" Idiot. Thinking of everything Yu Li had done for him, he feared that if Yu Li continued to be so kind, he would forget his own sins, and he silently buried his head. If only I could forget those unhappy things, he thought sadly. Suddenly, he felt a warm hand stroking his head. Yu Li was awake, but he didn't have the courage to look up. Outside the infirmary, the death god, Zhou Yi, leaned against the wall. He already knew everything that had happened inside. A crescent moon hung in the night sky. All was quiet. After closing the door, Lien Mian couldn't help but blame Zhou Yi. Why did you take it upon yourself to get Yu Li hurt? But Zhou Yi didn't think he had done anything wrong. Hadn't Lien Mian himself said he wanted to stay away from that kid? Besides, he recalled how Yu Li had brazenly grabbed his hand earlier that day. He thought to himself, I didn't even cast a spell. That kid brought it on himself. Seeing Zhou Ye's nonchalant attitude, Lien Mian was extremely dissatisfied. He angrily stated, even if I want Yu Li to stay away from me, I don't want him to get hurt because of me. How is this any different from me being the one who hurt him? What Zhou Yi did was way out of line. Does being a death god mean you can just abuse your powers? Hearing Lien Mian blame him, Zhou Yi's expression darkened. He lowered his head and asked in an icy voice, isn't this the result you wanted? The first time you've said more than a few words to me, and it's because of this. Growing angrier as he spoke, Zhou Yi slowly closed in on Lien Mian, bracing one hand against the wall. He asked in a low, insolent voice, so what if I did it? Pushed back against the wall, Lien Mian's defiance had now softened. He said quietly, you should consider Yu Li's feelings. Hearing this, Zhou Yi said without a shred of hesitation, enunciating every word, what does that have to do with me? Lien Mian was stunned by his response. Just then, the wall behind Lien Mian started to crack. Zhou Yi asked in a terrifying tone, have you forgotten that I'm a death god? As he finished speaking, the overburdened wall finally collapsed. Lien Mian looked at the man before him, feeling he was extremely dangerous at that moment, but he was unable to say a word. He saw Zhou Yi lower his gaze to look at him. Death gods are labeled as cruel, reclusive, and arrogant spirits. For millennia, humans have feared them. What's more, no human would ever need a death god. Those who longed for release were only using them to achieve their own goals. That's why a death god can only rely on other death gods. As these fragmented memories surfaced, a sharp pain suddenly shot through Zhou Ye's heart. Ever since the last time he used his powers, this pain had become increasingly noticeable. At that moment, Lien Mian was also in distress. The room they had been in had just collapsed with a thunderous crash due to Zhou Ye's uncontrollable rage. Dust billowed everywhere, choking Lien Mian. Zhou Yi hadn't expected the house to be so fragile, and Lien Mian never imagined that his own home would be completely destroyed by Zhou Yi tonight. He squatted on the ground, holding a shattered picture frame. It held a photo of his mother, holding him as a child. Thinking of his mother, he started to cry, feeling wronged. Seeing this, Zhou Yi, seemingly without any empathy, didn't plan to apologize. He simply asked Lien Mian what he was going to do. But Lien Mian was not one to be so meek. He stated bluntly that he didn't need Zhou Ye's concern. At his words, Zhou Ye's anger almost boiled over again. He just tossed out a suit yourself and turned to leave. Sensing Zhou Ye's departure, Lien Mian felt extremely upset. Zhou Yi is just too much. He stood up and yelled, acting on your own authority, doing whatever you please. All death gods do is scare people and cause destruction. So what if you have powers? Does that give you the right to treat people any way you want? Can you just ignore everyone else's feelings? Before he could finish, a sudden loud crash cut him off. A giant boulder had fallen with a loud bang. As it came down, Lien Mian felt no pain, because Zoe had already appeared behind him, holding him tightly and shielding his head. After the deafening noise subsided, Zoe spoke in a cold voice from behind him. You seem to have quite an opinion of me. Since I'm someone who acts on his own and does whatever he wants, then this should be acceptable too, right? The moment he finished speaking, Lien Mian felt his surroundings shift. This was the death god's home. Before he could even grasp the situation, Zoe informed him in a tone that left no room for argument. From now on, you'll live here. Lien Mian couldn't accept this. What about his house? Since Zoe could use his powers freely, then he should be able to restore his home, right? Zoye's reply, I can't, completely shattered his hopes. Lien Mian thought this death god was completely unreasonable. He didn't want to stay and turned to leave. But then Zoe took out the photo of him and his mother, asking if this was what he was looking for. Seeing the photo, Lien Mian hesitated. After a moment, he said reluctantly, I still have a lot of things back at my house. Hearing this, Zoe asked what he needed to get, daily necessities or clothes. As he asked, he showed off his own vast collection of items. Lien Mian was truly stunned by the sight, but he said that wasn't what he needed to get. Instead, it was the doll his mother had given him long ago. Meanwhile, the thugs that the ponytail girl had called to bully Lien Mian were lying in hospital beds. The gold-toothed man, now a gap-toothed man, cried to the man with a small braid in front of him that he had been injured by the person in the photo. The braided man looked at Zoe in the photo with disdain. This bunch of losers couldn't even beat a pretty boy. In the early morning, Zoe watched Lien Mian lying in bed. He was holding the doll his mother had given him, softly calling for his mom. He leaned against the wall, watching Lien Mian, and said mischievously, Good morning. Did you sleep well last night? Hearing Zoye's voice next to his ear, Lien Mian woke with a start and sat up. At that moment, the man was presenting the egg yolk rice balls he had made by hand, Lien Mian's favorite. He smiled and told him to get up quickly so they could go to school together. Seeing Zoe acting in this rare manner, Lien Mian actually started days off. In the classroom, Zoe sat fuming at his desk, thinking Lien Mian went to see that guy Yuli again. What's so great about it? Could it be that Yuli is going to confess to Lien Mian today? In the infirmary, Lien Mian was watching the sleeping Yuli. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew open a few pages of the notebook resting on Yuli. Lien Mian looked down and saw a piece of paper tucked inside that said for Lien Mian. Looking closer, he found 2 movie tickets tucked inside. Just as he made out what movie it was, Yuli's head suddenly came to rest on his. In that instant, Lien Mian felt the world go completely silent. All he could hear was Yuli's steady breathing, which gradually calmed his own inner turmoil. When Yuli opened his eyes, he found his head resting against Lien Mian's. He quickly pulled back, apologizing. But today's Lien Mian was very different from before. He seemed to be staring at his own abdomen. What Yuli didn't know was that Lien Mian had just realized it wasn't a coincidence last time. The numbers on his body really didn't change when he touched Lien Mian. Before the two could say much, someone came looking for Lien Mian from outside. He immediately fled in a panic. Inside the infirmary, Yuli held the movie tickets with regret. He had just forgotten to tell Lien Mian about the movie tickets. Movie tickets? What movie tickets? Zoe's sudden appearance gave Yuli a huge fright. But Zoe didn't care that he had scared a patient, and even said in that infuriating tone that movie tickets were such a cliché copyright way to confess, and Lien Mian would definitely say no. Hearing this, Yuli jumped like a startled rabbit, asking how he knew he was going to confess. And what business was it of his anyway? Hearing this, Zoe crossed his arms and sneered, saying he'd better not be planning to confess. Yuli was baffled by Zoye's attitude. Could it be that he didn't want him to confess? In the infirmary, the two boys were still bickering. What they didn't know was that outside, Lien Mian had been cornered by the gap-toothed man's boss. Just as the braided man was about to take Lien Mian away, Yuli finally spoke up. He came to a conclusion about Zoe constantly interfering in his and Lien Mian's affairs. Zoe likes Lien Mian. In a corner, the braided man lit a cigarette and sized up Lien Mian. He moved closer to Lien Mian, holding Zoye's photo, and asked where this person was now. But this time, Lien Mian wanted to face this himself. He stated coldly that if he wanted to find the person in the photo, he'd have to kill him first. Hearing this, The braided man was stunned for a moment, then clutched his stomach and burst out laughing mockingly. Lien Mian didn't intend to respond to him. He just gave a provocative smile. What's the point of talking? No matter what, he still wouldn't say. Seeing how Lien Mian disregarded him, the braided man's blood boiled, and he froze on the spot. In the infirmary, Zhou Yi seemed to sense something. He clutched his